The message from the overseers echoed across the world, leaving every nation in stunned silence. It was not just a warning, it was a demand. The alien ships, visible even to the naked eye, floated like silent giants above Earth's cities, their massive forms dwarfing anything human-made. For the first time, the human race felt small, fragile, and utterly insignificant. Governments, military forces, and emergency leaders from every corner of the Earth convened in rapid succession. In Washington, the president's cabinet met behind closed doors, debating the fate of humanity. General William Carter, the head of the United States Armed Forces, spoke first. "We can't fight them. Not yet," he said, his voice tight with urgency. "If their ships are what we think they are, we'll be wiped out before we even launch a counterattack." His words hit with the weight of inevitability. The aliens' technology appeared to be far beyond anything Earth had ever encountered. The sheer size of their ships suggested an empire built on centuries of advancement, perhaps millennia. "We can't just give up," another advisor, Senator Emily Harding, shot back, her tone fiery. "If we surrender, we lose everything. Our way of life, our freedom. We can't let them dictate our future." Her defiance was the spark that ignited the world. While the military assessed the capabilities of their weapons, the people of Earth reacted in unexpected ways. From the streets of Paris to the crowded plazas of New Delhi, protests and rallies erupted. Ordinary citizens, armed with nothing more than their voices and the belief in their right to exist freely, began to demand their leaders take action. In Tokyo, a group of scientists gathered around a round table, poring over data from satellites and surveillance drones. They knew they were racing against time to understand the alien technology. "We have to find out what makes their ships so powerful," Dr. Takeda, a leading physicist, urged. "If we can find their weakness, if there's anything that gives us a fighting chance, we need to uncover it now." But with each passing hour, the overseers grew bolder. They didn't attack, not yet, but their presence became undeniable. The immense ships pulsed with strange lights, their surfaces shimmering as if alive. Some reported seeing humanoid figures moving behind the glass-like windows. Others claimed to have heard strange, faint sounds, like whispers, coming from the vessels. Back in Washington, the president stood before the press, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. His face was grim, his hands shaking only slightly as he addressed the world. "We will not surrender," he said, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at him. "We will fight. Every man, woman, and child will stand together, no matter the cost. The fate of our species is in our hands now." The declaration was broadcast globally. Within moments, Earth's nations were united in their resolve. But the question lingered: was this merely a declaration of defiance, or the beginning of humanity's last stand? As the night fell, the world held its breath. A heavy silence settled over the planet. The ships loomed in the sky, seemingly indifferent to the cries below. The Earth had entered a new era, one where survival depended on more than just strength. It would take something greater than technology, something deeper than the weapons of war. Humanity's spirit would be tested, and in that moment, the world could only wonder, would it be enough? Above them, the overseers waited. They had delivered their ultimatum. It was now time to see what the humans would do next. The world's response to the overseers' ultimatum was swift and powerful. Despite the fear that permeated every corner of the globe, something remarkable happened in the wake of the alien threat. For the first time in history, the nations of Earth, divided by borders, ideologies, and conflicts, found common ground. The message from the president had ignited a spark that spread like wildfire. People of all nations, races, and religions began to unite behind a single cause: survival. In every major city, the streets were filled with crowds of people. Some gathered in silence, others in fervent protest, but all stood with a shared determination. There was no room for division now. Leaders who once bickered over trivial matters now worked side by side, forming a single front against the unknown invaders. In Moscow, Prime Minister Ivan Petrov stood before a gathering of military leaders and scientists. "We do not know the extent of their power," he said gravely, his voice echoing in the vast, dimly lit room. "But we cannot afford to give in. We must fight." Around the table, military strategists from every corner of the globe nodded in agreement. While the military's resources were limited compared to the alien fleet, there was one advantage they had: the element of surprise. They had no idea what the Overseer's weaknesses were, but there had to be something. Earth's scientists worked tirelessly to develop theories about how the alien technology might be countered. Back in the United States, General William Carter led a global conference of military leaders via a secure satellite connection. "We need to act quickly," he said. "Our first objective is to buy time. We'll engage in limited counterattacks to see how they respond, gather intelligence, and prepare for their next move. But most importantly, we must hold the line. We can't let them think we're weak." Across the globe, similar strategies were being devised. Some nations focused on building defenses and mass evacuations, while others funneled their efforts into developing new weaponry, hoping to strike at any potential weakness in the Overseer's technology. Meanwhile, Earth's scientists, who had once focused on mundane research or military projects, shifted their attention to studying the alien ships. Working day and night, they pored over satellite images, decoded intercepted signals, and combed through historical records, trying to decipher anything that might explain the aliens' arrival. The ancient artifact discovered earlier, which held hints of humanity's hidden power, was studied intensively. Could the key to humanity's survival lie in the depths of human history? In Beijing, Dr. Mai Lei, a leading biotechnologist, led a team that began researching possible genetic links to the newfound potential of humanity. The more they studied, the clearer it became. There was something inside humanity that the Overseers had either missed or chosen to ignore. Earth's people, though physically weaker than the Overseers, had untapped potential buried deep within them. A genetic advantage that could prove to be the turning point in the coming war. Back in New York, the people took to the streets. Their message simple: "We will not bow." It wasn't just the governments or the military that had mobilized. It was the people. As the days passed, global cooperation reached unprecedented levels. Supplies were shared across borders. Scientists, engineers, and ordinary citizens pooled their expertise to build weapons, reinforce defenses, and prepare for the worst. Amid the tension, small acts of defiance echoed throughout the world. In the cities, graffiti began appearing, a new slogan spray-painted on walls: "Humanity's will is unbroken." A new national identity was born, not based on borders or flags, but on the shared will to fight for survival. The Overseers, still looming in the sky, watched as Earth prepared. But they underestimated the resilience of humanity. With every day that passed, the will to survive and protect their home grew stronger. The alien presence, meant to instill fear, had instead sparked a unified resistance. Earth was no longer just a planet to be conquered. It was a battlefield where the fate of its inhabitants would be decided by their courage. Days turned into weeks, and despite humanity's growing resolve, the Overseers remained silent. Their massive ships continued to hover ominously in Earth's atmosphere, their metallic surfaces glinting in the sunlight. The world waited, hearts heavy with fear and uncertainty. But then, just when it seemed like the tension would snap, the Overseers broadcasted another message. It wasn't a threat this time. There was no mention of destruction or annihilation. The alien voice was calm, almost detached, and as it crackled through every communication device across the planet, the world listened, unsure of what to expect. "Humans," the voice said, its tone cold yet strangely informative. "We have observed your response, your defiance. It is impressive. But you do not understand the nature of your existence. You have unleashed forces far beyond your comprehension. And this is your warning." The message sent shockwaves through humanity. The first part was a simple acknowledgement of their defiance, but the second part was far more chilling. You have no idea what you are capable of." The overseers explained cryptically that they were not merely conquerors, but preservers of order in the universe. They had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations across the galaxy, and what they had seen on Earth was different. Humanity, with its unpredictable nature and untamed potential, was unlike any species they had ever encountered. "We are not here to destroy you," the voice continued. "We are here to warn you. You are chosen, but you are unprepared. You cannot grasp the magnitude of the power you are awakening. What you now face is far beyond the reach of your primitive understanding. If you are wise, you will accept our offer of survival and join our empire. If you resist, you will bring your own destruction." The broadcast ended, leaving Earth's leaders and citizens in stunned silence. The message didn't threaten them with immediate annihilation. It hinted at something far more terrifying. Humanity had stumbled upon a power so great, so dangerous, that even the overseers feared it. For the first time, the inhabitants of Earth wondered if the alien race's presence wasn't just about domination, but about something far more intricate. Why would the overseers, with their vast power and knowledge, fear humanity? A sense of unease began to settle over Earth. The overseers had made their intentions clear. They were not simply invaders. They were also guardians of something much larger, something cosmic. The question that loomed was, why had humanity, a seemingly primitive species, gained access to this unknown force? In the days that followed, scientists around the world turned their focus inward, diving deeper into research about this hidden power the overseers had warned about. Dr. Mailey and her team, who had been studying the alien presence from the genetic angle, discovered something disturbing. Genetic traces from ancient human civilizations, ones buried deep within Earth's past, contained anomalies, patterns that didn't belong. These anomalies were encoded in human DNA, passed down through the generations, but never activated, until now. The overseers said we were chosen, Dr. Lai muttered as she pored over the data. But chosen for what? And how are we linked to whatever power they fear? In Washington, the president addressed the nation in an emergency broadcast, his face grave as he acknowledged the chilling warning. "We've heard their message," he said, "and while we do not know the full extent of what they mean, one thing is clear: our future is tied to this. We will not submit, but we must understand what we are facing. We are not just fighting an enemy. We are fighting something far greater. We need to be prepared." Across the globe, the realization began to settle. Humanity had touched something it did not fully understand. The threat from the overseers wasn't just about their ships or weapons. It was about what humans themselves were capable of. A potential buried deep in their very DNA. And in that moment, humanity stood at the edge of a precipice. They had been warned, but they had no choice but to move forward. The battle was no longer just against the overseers. It was against an unknown force that could either make or break them. The warning from the overseers had set the world on edge. Fear and confusion gripped humanity as people tried to make sense of what had been said. The question of why the overseers seemed so concerned with humanity's hidden power became a driving force in the days that followed. Earth's leaders, military strategists, and scientists realized they couldn't afford to ignore the possibility that the overseers' warning held some truth. They needed answers, and they needed them fast. The scientific community had already begun to investigate humanity's genetic makeup, but the discovery they uncovered surpassed even their wildest expectations. Dr. Mailey and her team worked tirelessly, studying the ancient human records and DNA samples recovered from long-forgotten civilizations. The more they dug, the more they unearthed startling revelations. What they discovered was nothing short of extraordinary. Humanity's ancestors had once been part of a vast, intergalactic network, an ancient civilization that had spread across the stars millennia ago. Over time, these humans had lost contact with their cosmic brethren, and the knowledge of their shared history had been erased. Earth, once a hub for this civilization, had regressed into isolation, and the extraordinary abilities embedded in their genetic code lay dormant for eons. What we're seeing isn't just an anomaly, Dr. Lai explained to a group of global leaders and military officers. It's a legacy. Earth was part of something much larger, a galactic alliance that spanned the known universe. Our ancestors were not just simple beings, they were powerful. They wielded abilities beyond our comprehension. The implications were staggering. It seemed that humanity had been born with the potential to manipulate energy, time, and matter itself. But for reasons unknown, those powers had been sealed away. As the years passed, this latent power was forgotten, lying dormant in human genetics until now. We've been blind to it for centuries, Dr. Lai continued, her voice filled with awe. The overseers know this. They know what we're capable of if we unlock these abilities, and that's why they're so afraid. Meanwhile, across the globe, Earth's governments began to unite in their efforts to prepare for what lay ahead. Nations that had once been enemies now shared intelligence, resources, and manpower. In every laboratory, a sense of urgency permeated the air as researchers worked to understand the nature of humanity's dormant power and how to awaken it. But the discoveries weren't without their complications. As the genetic research advanced, some began to wonder if humanity was truly ready to wield such power. What would happen if people were able to access abilities that could manipulate reality itself? Would humanity be able to control it, or would it be consumed by it? As the overseers seemed to imply. In Geneva, the United Nations convened a special council to discuss the moral implications of humanity's newfound power. We've already seen the destruction caused by weapons we can't control, said UN Secretary-General Samantha Ellis. If we awaken these abilities, we risk more than just our own survival. We risk the fate of the universe itself. As the debate raged on, one thing became increasingly clear. The fate of humanity hinged on the choices they made in the coming days. Could they unlock the potential buried deep within them without losing control? And more importantly, would they be able to use it to defeat the overseers? In the underground labs beneath London, a breakthrough came. The first successful attempt to activate a dormant human ability was achieved. A young volunteer, a woman named Lara Voss, was exposed to an experimental energy field designed to stimulate her genetic code. What happened next shocked everyone in the room. She effortlessly manipulated a ball of energy, shaping it into a sphere of solid light, floating in the air. Her hands trembled as she let the light fade, but the possibilities were clear. Humanity was beginning to tap into the very force the overseers had feared. The overseers' warnings now seemed less like threats and more like the desperate cries of those who had seen this power before. Power capable of reshaping galaxies, for better or worse. And humanity was awakening it once again. The world was no longer just preparing for an invasion. They were preparing for a war of a different kind, one for control of the unimaginable power that lay within them all. The first successful demonstration of humanity's latent ability sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The young volunteer, Lara Voss, became a symbol of what was to come. Her ability to manipulate light was only the beginning. Researchers worked day and night, refining their methods, finding new ways to unlock the hidden potential inside human DNA. It was clear now. The dormant power within humankind was not just a myth. It was real, and it could be harnessed. Around the world, governments and military forces scrambled to prepare for the inevitable confrontation. If humanity was to stand a chance against the overseers, they would need more than just weapons. They needed to master these newly awakened abilities. The first global training centers were established in secret locations where the most promising candidates were trained to control their newfound powers. Lara Voss, now at the forefront of this movement, was thrust into a leadership role she had never imagined. With her ability to manipulate light, she became the first person to demonstrate the full potential of human power, and her training was a symbol of hope. But as the training intensified, so did the risks. The sheer amount of energy required to control these powers was immense, and there were many who couldn't withstand the strain. One evening, as Lara stood before a team of scientists in a secure facility in Norway, she focused her mind, attempting to conjure a more complex shape from the light she controlled. It took everything she had, but she succeeded in shaping the energy into a twisting beam, cutting through the air. The room erupted in applause. For the first time, humanity felt as if they were regaining some measure of control. "We're getting closer," Lara said, her voice steady but filled with exhaustion. "But we need to push further. The overseers won't wait for us to catch up." Back in Geneva, the United Nations met once again to discuss the growing tensions and their strategy moving forward. It was clear to everyone that humanity was now in possession of powers that could rival those of the overseers, but no one knew how long it would take for Earth's forces to be fully trained, or if it would even be enough to stand against the alien invaders. "The overseers have been watching us," said UN Secretary-General Samantha Ellis, her voice filled with concern. "They know what we're capable of, and if we don't move quickly, they will strike first. This is our one chance." The military was also in full preparation mode, working alongside the newly formed human-powered units. Special forces, now equipped with individuals capable of manipulating energy, gravity, and even time itself, were being trained in top-secret facilities. The goal was clear: develop a strategy to fight back, to make the overseers realize that Earth would not submit to their rule. But amidst all the military preparations and research, something unsettling began to surface. Earth's newfound powers weren't just a tool, they were changing humanity. In some cases, the strain of controlling the powers had led to violent outbursts, uncontrollable surges of energy that left destruction in their wake. The boundaries between who humanity was and what they were becoming began to blur. The overseers had warned of this, of how humanity's potential could be both a blessing and a curse. In one particularly chilling incident, a man named Xavier Blake, a former military officer, lost control during a training exercise. His ability to manipulate gravitational fields spiraled out of control, causing an entire section of the training facility to collapse. When the dust cleared, several researchers and trainees were injured, and Xavier was left unconscious. The incident raised the question: what would happen if these powers fell into the wrong hands? Could Earth's newfound strength be their downfall? As tensions mounted, Lara Voss found herself questioning whether humanity was ready for this power. Could they control it, or would it destroy them from within, as the overseers seemed to suggest? And most terrifying of all, if the overseers truly knew the extent of this potential, would they even allow Earth to survive once they understood what humans were capable of? One thing was certain: the clock was ticking. The overseers would not wait forever, and Earth's fate hung in the balance. The stage was set for the ultimate confrontation, one where humanity's greatest strength could either lead to victory or to their ultimate destruction. The days leading up to humanity's final confrontation with the overseers were filled with uncertainty and tension. The growing realization that Earth's powers were a double-edged sword only deepened the anxiety. As humanity prepared to face the overwhelming might of the alien invaders, internal debates raged about whether humanity was ready for the responsibility of their newfound abilities. Could they master them, or would they be consumed by them? In the heart of the United Nations, leaders gathered for what would be their most important decision yet. The overseers had given their ultimatum: surrender and join their empire, or face extinction. But humanity had come too far to turn back. The question now was whether they would fight the overseers with their own weapons, or with the incredible, dangerous powers that lay dormant within them. Lara Voss, still revered as humanity's symbol of hope, stood before the council. She was no longer just the face of a new military initiative. She had become the embodiment of Earth's will to survive. The weight of the decisions she'd made, and the powers she'd unlocked, weighed heavily on her shoulders. "We cannot let fear dictate our future." Lara spoke with conviction, her voice unwavering. "The overseers want us to fear the power we've just discovered. They think we'll destroy ourselves with it, but we are stronger than they believe. We have the will to control it, to use it to protect our world." A murmur rippled through the room. Some of the council members nodded in agreement, but others were more cautious, their faces creased with doubt. Secretary General Samantha Ellis, who had long advocated for a diplomatic approach, raised her hand. "Lara, I agree with your sentiment, but we're talking about something we don't fully understand. We're talking about powers that could obliterate entire cities with a single thought, powers that could warp time and space. If we push too far, too fast, we may lose control, and if we do, we could lose everything." Lara met Ellis's gaze, her expression resolute. "We've already been given a glimpse of what we're capable of. Every day, humanity shows what it's capable of. We've fought wars, endured hardships, and rebuilt after devastation. This power doesn't define us. Our choices, our unity, our will, that defines us." The room fell into a heavy silence. It was clear that this decision wasn't just about military strategy. It was about humanity's very identity. The decision to fight would not only shape the outcome of the war, but also determine the course of human evolution. Would they rise as a unified species, embracing their newfound power responsibly? Or would they fall, consumed by it? General William Carter, who had been a strong advocate for using Earth's military might alongside the new powers, finally spoke. "We've prepared for every scenario, and now it's time to act. If we wait too long, the overseers will make the decision for us. We have the chance to strike first, to show them that humanity isn't to be underestimated. If we use our abilities with precision, we can win this. But we must move swiftly." His words ignited a fire in the council. The debate, though fierce, had reached its inevitable conclusion. Humanity had come too far to turn back. The overseers had underestimated them. And now Earth's forces would show the universe that they would not be ruled, not without a fight. The council voted unanimously. Earth would fight. As the decision was made, Lara Voss found herself standing on the precipice of a new era. The very powers she had unlocked, powers that had once terrified her, now felt like an extension of herself. But even as she prepared to lead humanity into battle, a nagging doubt lingered in her mind. What if the power they had unlocked wasn't just a weapon to be wielded? What if it was a force that could change the fabric of reality itself, irrevocably altering everything they knew? And what if in the end, the overseers weren't the true enemy, but the very power humanity was awakening? As Lara prepared for the final confrontation, she realized one thing. This was no longer just a fight for survival. It was a fight for humanity's soul. The day of reckoning had arrived. Earth, united and armed with the powers of its ancestors, stood ready to face the overseers. Across the globe, every nation had mobilized its forces, from the newly trained units of humans capable of manipulating energy to advanced military fleets equipped with the latest technology. The final preparations were underway, and Lara Voss, now a symbol of humanity's strength, stood at the forefront. Her heart pounded in her chest as she surveyed the landscape from the command center in Geneva, the nerves in her stomach, a constant reminder of what was at stake. The overseers' ships, still looming in Earth's orbit, remained silent. It was as if they were watching, waiting for humanity to make its move. But Lara knew one thing. The time for waiting was over. Earth was ready to take the fight to them. "We've trained for this," she said quietly to herself, clutching the control console. The energy fields around her hummed as her team activated their own latent powers, like manipulation, gravitational control, and even the ability to phase through solid matter. The plan was simple: strike fast, hit hard, and never give the overseers time to respond. General Carter stood beside her, his face etched with a grim determination. "This isn't just about tactics, Lara. It's about proving to them that we won't be enslaved. The overseers think they can break us, but they don't understand what we're capable of. We've got one shot at this." The battle plan was bold. Humanity's forces would first deploy in waves of energy-wielding soldiers who would infiltrate and disable key overseer systems from within. Their job was to disrupt the alien technology, making it impossible for the invaders to use their vast power effectively. Meanwhile, the military would launch an all-out assault, using the best of Earth's weaponry and the newly discovered powers to bombard the Overseer fleet. As the countdown to launch began, Lara felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. Not just the lives of those gathered in the room, or the millions waiting for their chance to fight, but the very future of humanity. They were no longer simply protecting their planet. They were reclaiming their legacy. The first wave began. Across the globe, energy-based squads launched themselves into the air, their bodies crackling with vibrant power. Lara's own team, poised at the forefront of the battle, gathered their forces and prepared to teleport to the Overseer ships. The moment the signal came, they would breach the ship's defenses, unleashing humanity's raw power within the heart of the invaders' technology. Up in the skies, the Overseer's fleet was a spectacle of menacing, polished ships that reflected the sun's rays like mirrors. As the human forces closed in, the Overseers remained silent. But something changed, a flicker of movement. The immense ships began to pulse with an eerie light. "They're responding," General Carter said, his voice laced with both excitement and fear. "Prepare for impact." The battle unfolded in an instant. Humanity's forces collided with the Overseer fleet in a violent storm of energy and metal. Bright beams of light arced across the sky as soldiers and fighters clashed midair, each side utilizing their most devastating powers. Lara, harnessing her ability to manipulate light, formed massive barriers of radiant energy to shield her team, deflecting devastating blasts from the Overseers. With a focused thought, she turned the light into weapons, launching spear-like projectiles toward the Overseer ships. The air crackled with raw power as the battle intensified. Earth's military forces unleashed barrages of advanced weaponry, missiles, and laser beams that tore through the alien ships. The Overseers, however, retaliated with precision, their ships shifting in ways that defied the laws of physics. They were fast, adaptable, and their weapons were deadly. But humanity's forces fought with the desperate, unified strength of a species determined to survive. As the battle raged on, it became clear that Earth's new powers were not a perfect weapon. The strain of using them was evident. Several soldiers, overwhelmed by the sheer force of their abilities, fell unconscious mid-battle. The power was difficult to control and even more difficult to predict. But Lara pushed forward, her mind sharpened by her training and experience. She knew that this was only the beginning. The Overseers were powerful, but they underestimated one thing: humanity's unyielding will to fight. The first wave of humanity's energy wielders breached the Overseer ships, and the tide began to turn. Systems malfunctioned, shields flickered, and the alien invaders began to falter. "This is it," Lara whispered, her heart racing. "We're taking our world back." The battle raged on, and the sky above Earth became a canvas of chaos. Energy beams collided, lighting up the atmosphere with streaks of blinding light and immense shockwaves. The Overseer's ships, despite their advanced technology and almost incomprehensible power, were beginning to buckle under the weight of humanity's newfound abilities. The human forces, though still learning how to fully harness their powers, were determined. The air hummed with the collective will of a species that had come too far to simply surrender. Lara Voss, now deep inside the Overseer flagship, led a team of the most powerful individuals humanity had to offer. They moved swiftly through the corridors of the massive ship, guided by the energy signatures of the Overseer's core systems. Their task was clear: disable the central command, disrupt the communication systems, and ensure that the invaders would no longer have the advantage of their superior coordination. The deeper they went into the ship, the stronger the resistance became. Alien drones and soldiers, their forms sleek and metallic, materialized from the shadows, engaging in fierce combat with the human intruders. But the humans were no longer just fighters. They were evolving, tapping into the energy of their ancestors with a precision that only years of training could provide. Each soldier had a power, a unique ability that gave them an edge in combat. Lara's power, the ability to control and manipulate light, formed intricate shields that deflected the alien weapons and disintegrated them before they even made contact. "We're getting close," Lara said, her voice calm despite the chaos around her. "Keep pushing." General Carter's voice crackled through her earpiece. "Lara, we've got a breach in the upper levels. You need to get to the command center now. This is our only shot." Lara didn't hesitate. She turned, rallying her team as they moved toward the core of the ship. Time was running out. The Overseers had taken control of the vast majority of the battlefield, their remaining ships launching devastating counterattacks against Earth's forces. But with each breach, each vessel disabled, the tide was slowly shifting in humanity's favor. As they neared the command center, Lara could feel the pressure mounting. She pushed her powers to the limit, her body trembling as she formed a radiant barrier around her team to protect them from incoming fire. The Overseers, now fully aware of their opponent's potential, responded with a violent counterattack. Waves of electromagnetic pulses surged through the air, momentarily disabling their technology and sending tremors through the structure. "This isn't just about firepower anymore," Lara thought to herself, the weight of the mission growing heavier. "This is about survival." The command center loomed ahead, its massive doors reinforced with alien technology. Lara took a deep breath and focused. With a single thought, she manipulated the light around them, creating a concentrated beam of energy that cut through the barriers with ease. The doors exploded in a blinding flash, and the team poured into the room. Inside, the Overseer's central command was a web of complex systems, glowing interfaces, and alien machinery. At the heart of the chamber stood an imposing figure, the Overseer leader, its massive form hovering above the floor, encased in a glowing, translucent armor. Its eyes locked onto Lara with an intensity that sent a chill down her spine. "You are fools," the Overseer intoned, its voice reverberating through the chamber. "You do not understand what you are unleashing. This power, this chaos, is beyond your control. You will destroy everything." Lara's heart raced as she stepped forward, her hands crackling with energy. "You may have been able to control your empire with fear," she said, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. "But we're not afraid of you." The battle began in an instant. The Overseer leader unleashed torrents of energy, shifting reality itself with impossible speed. The ground beneath them warped, and the very air crackled with raw power. But Lara was no longer a passive participant in the fight. She was a force of nature, wielding her power with precision, deflecting the energy blasts, and sending her own beams of light to collide with the Overseer's defenses. Behind her, her team pressed forward, each of them fighting with everything they had. The struggle was more than just physical. It was a battle for humanity's future, a battle to prove that they could rise above their fear, their limitations, and their history of subjugation. In the final moments, as the energy in the chamber reached a fever pitch, Lara gathered every ounce of strength she had. Her body trembled with exhaustion, but she pushed through the pain. With a final, powerful cry, she unleashed a beam of pure light that pierced the Overseer leader's core, shattering its armor and sending the alien to the ground. For a moment, everything went silent. And then, the explosion came.